What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the German Bear Podcast. Today we got episode 2 of the Bears Draft Prospect series on the channel, and we will talk about some potential cornerback prospects the Bears could go after in the draft. Right now we have Jalen Johnson, our certified cornerback 1 on the team, and after that, Thomas Graham Jr. and Duke Shelley is the only solid ones on the team right now. Thomas Graham, although I think he showed a lot of potential in the last couple of games last season, is not really a cornerback 2 yet for me, or at least he hasn't shown me that. So for me, we definitely need to address the position still via the draft or free agency, which is my preferred option. And then you have Duke Shelley as your slot cornerback, who is very solid. So let's get right into 5 draft prospects that I like that are potential 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or even 5th round picks in this draft that could have an immediate impact on the Bears on the secondary and maybe could solidify the cornerback 2 option. For me, the 2nd round and 3rd round picks should be invested into the offensive line and potentially wide receiver because I think the free agent market on cornerback is pretty strong. But of course, it's an option, and I think there's some very good cornerbacks that could potentially be the immediate starter at the cornerback 2 spot, so let's get right into it. First of all, I want to talk about Derion Kendrick, 6 foot, 200-pound cornerback out of Georgia, played at Clemson before that, and he's a converted wide receiver, has great hands to make plays. Pros about him: can do anything in coverage, man, press, bail technique, great technique in general. His reaction time is good on routes, tight coverage all around, good hips to change direction fast, a good willing tackler in the run game, has always the eyes on the ball and on the quarterback, and he played some very good, maybe even the best competition at Georgia, played Alabama, Clemson, Arkansas, even though that's not a comparable team to the others, but he also has some flaws. He can potentially get too handsy in coverage, grabs and holds too much at times, which can cause flags or will cause flags in the pros. When you look at the Alabama tape, he had 2 defensive pass interferences, although the second one was kind of questionable. But that's something that's coachable in the NFL by good DB coaches, which the Bears definitely have. He has good speed, but not top-end speed to carry fast receivers down the field. And in run defense, he is good and a willing tackler, like I said, but has a hard time getting off of blocks and also has some kind of bad tackling angles at times. In conclusion, he's a projected 2nd rounder, very versatile corner with great athletic movement, can play zone and man, fluid out the breaks, and to me, would be an amazing pickup. I wouldn't complain if the Bears pick him up. I would only complain if Zion Johnson is still on the board and we pass up on him because he's probably my favorite player that could potentially fall into the 2nd round. But if the Bears decide to attack corner first in the draft, Derion Kendrick is definitely the one that stands out to me and would be a solid pickup all around. Next up is Martin Emerson, 6'2", 200-pound cornerback from Mississippi State. Pros about him: size, length. You really see it on tape. He looks like a beast out there. Good press off the line. Amazing tackler with good run support. That's what he has over Derion Kendrick. Great corner with quick reactions in zone coverage. Good competition. Look at the Alabama tape. You really saw his physicality in that and his awareness, actually. Like when you look at, there was one play where you really saw his zone awareness. That was a levels concept. I think the running back was running a speed out and the wide receiver that Emerson was covering ran a 5 or 10 and out. I'm not remembering fully what happened. And you see Emerson realizing that the pass will be going to the running back. He looked at the QB, read him all the way, knew that safety help was right behind him, so he chose to go down. Running back catches the ball, and boom, he lays a hit on him and makes a great tackle. You just see him really processing the game very fast. That's what I love about him, combined with his physicality. Also, he's very explosive and quick with great hip movement. Cons about him: tackling angles at times could be better. Struggles with balance if wide receiver is fast and attacks him directly. That's a common problem with bigger cornerbacks, but he just does it at certain times, not all the time. And like Kendrick, he can get too grabby if beat. Conclusion for him, projected late second to early third rounder. Lengthy, tall corner with amazing athletic abilities, great in coverage and very physical in the run game, as well as at the catch point. And imagine this scenario. If the Bears trade back, or if some team wants to trade up, and the Bears give up their second round pick, maybe have a pick later in the second round, or if he even falls into the third round, Martin Emerson, this would be an absolute steal if you get him later in the second or early in the third round. Instant starter next to Jalen Johnson. I love the upside with him. I love his physical ability. His measurements are insane, and Martin Emerson is one of my favorite cornerbacks in this draft class. Cornerback number 3 on the list is Coby Bryant out of Cincinnati. 6'1", 200 pounds, lengthy corner, tall, and his arm length is totally fits the NFL. Great in zone, tight coverage, doesn't press a lot, but good if he needs to. Good use of the hands to win at the line. Great mentality, never backs down. That's what's a standout thing to me and any other scouts that talk about him. They always talk about that mentality. Great feet, quick, adjusts to releases fast, shadows guys well at the breaks, and good ball skills, fights through contact a lot. Cons about him, he has some tackling issues, takes some very bad angles at times. A good athlete though, but nothing off the charts. Also, to add to the run game, tends to not be involved at all. He more like tends to run away from it or runs around blocks and doesn't really get involved into it, even though he somehow seems willing to tackle. Hip movement needs improvement, and he needs to get stronger for the pro level, but the coverage ability is already there and looks very promising. He's a projected 3rd to 4th rounder. Amazing coverage ability, like I said, but needs to improve in certain aspects of his game. Brings the perfect NFL measurements and has the potential to be a good corner in the pros. That's a no doubt. And I like him as an early 4th, maybe late 3rd rounder, and would love him next to JJ. The coverage would absolutely lock these opponents up. Some minor technique issues with him that can be fixed in the pros, and he should learn how to act better in the run game. But as an overall prospect, I like him a lot, but you never know how these cornerbacks perform in the pros, obviously. 4th cornerback is probably my favorite one out of the draft, potentially. Tariq Woolen, 6'3", 205 from UTSA, a smaller college stud. Hyper super athletic, fastest speed measured at the Senior Bowl. He's projected to run a 4.35 at the size of 6'3". He is an absolute physical and athletic beast. Lengthy, super long arms, physical as hell, sticks with guys in coverage, and also has safety experience as well as corner experience at the UTSA. They used him all over the field. Scouts think he is a fit at pro corner, and the thing is he played safety, so he is also a great tackler in the backfield, blitzed a lot, strong hands when playing press, good awareness, but he is one of the more raw talents the Bears could go after. Cons, he has technique issues. He needs some cleanup. In press, he doesn't move the feet on the snap, so he doesn't get off the snap as well as the wide receiver, which will give him a disadvantage. Fast mover with hips, but tends to take unnecessary steps. Over aggressive at times with his tackles. Really just misses guys with takes his head down and just wants to tackle with his shoulder, and some good running backs in the NFL will utilize that and make him miss. Also, like I said, a very raw talent still, needs to turn the head around in coverage and some mental improvement with the game because he only played the position for 2 years, but at the same time, he plays the position only for 2 years, and it's an amazing change from wide receiver to corner, and being that good that quickly gives me a lot of hope. I like him over Coby Bryant, to be honest, because I love his physical tools, and if he's coached right, maybe he has to sit a year behind a veteran quarterback that the Bears could bring in via free agency. But after that year, if he learns quickly and mentally picks up the game, the NFL level, he could be an absolute steal and one of the nicest cornerbacks in the league with his size and his physical abilities. If the Bears take him in round 4, this would be the dream pickup at corner for me. He has the highest potential probably of all the players I've mentioned now, and probably the highest potential you could get out of round 4 if he falls this far. He could also go in round 3. But Tariq Woolen, absolute monster. Look up his tape, look up his highlights. He is amazing. And lastly, I want to talk about Josh Jobe, 6'1", 195-pound cornerback out of Alabama. So from probably the most prolific school there is in college football. Pros about him, once again, like with most of these cornerbacks I've mentioned, size plus length, huge wingspan, very explosive and athletic. So he has these tools that you can't really teach. Great tackler and competitor. He has an amazing mindset, multiple scouts said, and he doesn't allow a lot of big plays. He has shown great flashes of leveraging down the field, good reaction time in zone coverage, and he's a very, very physical corner, something I would love Chicago to pick up. But there's a lot of cons with him. Still very, very raw in his technique, unsure with his hands usage and feet, hip tightness in coverage, and by scouts lacks awareness. He's a projected 3rd to 4th rounder, and the physical talent is very intriguing to me, and it will get him drafted in about the 3rd or 4th round. Lots of room for improvement, but he showed flashes of great play, and with Woolen, those are my two guys, my two developmental picks that could turn out amazing. For now, Woolen is better than Jobe for me, but you never know how they turn out in the NFL. But maybe with 1 year behind a veteran cornerback, like I've mentioned with Woolen, Jobe could emerge as a great cornerback too for the Bears with a lot of physical play, and he has ideal length and size for the NFL. He is probably with Woolen the biggest long shot to be very successful at cornerback too. But when we're talking about round 3 or round 4, you are gambling on physical tools, and those two guys definitely have those. And I would love one of those two guys on Chicago as some developmental pieces. So that wraps up my 5 potential cornerbacks that the Bears could go after in the draft. 5 guys that I really like, that bring physicality to the game, good coverage, and a lot of room for improvement, and a lot of potential. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next episode will be about the wide receivers. I'm so excited for this episode. I can't wait to scout these guys. I love the position of wide receiver, so I'm just excited to see what they can bring to the table. A lot of interesting names will be dropped in that episode, so make sure you will check that out. But like I said, thank you guys for tuning in. If you liked the episode, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out Instagram for the latest news, even though there's just a bit of a drought until free agency right now. And as always, guys, bear down.